The Notre Dame Fighting Irish, the USC Trojans, one of the historic rivalries in all of college football, and the 2025 version is the game of storylines. And I want to talk about some of those storylines and everything you should be watching Saturday night in South Bend, Indiana. Ryan Roberts from A to Z Sports, breaking down everything Notre Dame football. Folks, first and foremost, thank you all that came out to the A to Z happy hour this past weekend. Was in town, obviously, for the NC State game. So shout out to everyone, all the viewers of the channel that came out and said, what's up? Saw them game day or the night before. It was fantastic to meet everybody. But I want to talk about this USC game in depth because this is a game of storylines, which shouldn't be very surprising because my first major storyline and a conversation point that's happened a lot this past offseason, rivalry game, right? And in the ever-evolving world of college football that includes NIL and the transfer portal, rivalries they've been dulled a little bit in some capacities. When you talk about the historical rivalries for Notre Dame, you're going to talk about the USC Trojans, you're going to talk about the Michigan Wolverines. Obviously, for the latter there, Notre Dame does not have a game against Michigan on the schedule in the foreseeable future and haven't played in a couple years. So that rivalry is getting dulled a little bit. USC, after the 2026 season, don't have them on the schedule for the foreseeable future. So this is one of last two times that you're going to definitely see USC. I'm sure Notre Dame is going to see him again. But as long as Lincoln Riley is the head coach of that team, who knows exactly when, where, or how that rivalry is going to get renewed. But first and foremost, for this fan base, for these players, for everyone that has lived and loved the wonderful team and the wonderful program in South Bend, Indiana, you know what USC week means. This is a game that is going to be about high emotions, physicality, and no matter how good or bad, and I think this USC team is pretty good, no matter how good or bad they are, this is going to be a game that matters to the Fighting Irish, especially because after your first two games that you had against Miami and Texas A&M, this is the best remaining test on the schedule. And USC has a good team, a talented offense especially. Got to win the rivalry. That's storyline number one. Number two, and I want to talk about this one a little bit more in depth. The defense for Chris Ash, the first three games, I'll even say 3.5 if we can extend to Arkansas. So we're talking about Miami, Texas A&M, we're talking about Purdue, and then we're talking about the first half against Arkansas. A lot of rough moments, man. And after those first three games specifically, you were letting up nearly 33 points per game. And that included a game against Purdue, a team that you were much, 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 much more talented than. The defense was really bad. And after three games, a lot of people were like, hey, Chris Ash, get out of here, bro. Like, I don't think you're the right guy. And to his credit, the last 2.5 games, which includes the second half of Arkansas, which includes against Boise State, and then includes against NC State, Notre Dame has looked a whole lot better. They've played really well defensively, only allowing 9 points per game over the last three, and only a touchdown each in each of the last two games. So the defense has looked a lot better, and the differences have been more physical on the back end in terms of being able to play more press man coverage. You're seeing less open space for wide receivers. You're seeing more aggressive on the second level and with your different blitz looks. So this is a team that has been a lot more shaped the way we've seen the last 2 years under Al Gold, and it looks more similar. So it's been really nice to see. But this is a different type of test now. All due respect to Boise State, who has a couple nice playmakers. Those running backs especially were good players. All due respect to NC State, and I like C.J. Bailey a lot. I like Hollywood Smothers in the backfield, some good talents. But you are not going to see a wide receiver outside of Mario Craver for Texas A&M like Mekhi Lemon, and shout out obviously to a couple of the Miami kids as well. Malachi Toney, very good player. But you are not going to see another Mekhi Lemon on the schedule. You're not going to see another Jacoby Lane on this schedule. Jaden Mayava, the quarterback for USC, is playing at a tremendous rate. So this is the test. After a couple very good outings against lesser opponents in terms of talents from your team compared to them, is this Notre Dame defense for real? I think we'll have a chance, and more than anything, is this turnaround for real? We'll have a much better chance to know the answer to that question. I think it's heading in the right direction. And I don't need them to go out there and hold USC to 10 points because that's unreasonable. But does it pass the eye test? That's what I'm curious about. If they just start settling back into soft zone and just get nickel and dimed to death defensively and let up 35 plus points, did anything really change? Did you play against football teams that you are the superior? This game, the talent, your best, Leonard Moore, Mekhi Lemon, Jacoby Lane, Christian Gray, is a lot more even than it is, and it has been over the last few weeks. Can you take advantage? Can you get to Maeva? Can you shut down this run game that is banged up right now, down their top two backs? Can you show that the defense has made progress? Progress to the eye, not even necessarily to the stat sheet, but hopefully the stat sheet follows. Another big thing, and this is a huge one for Notre Dame football and the rest of the season and beyond. CJ Carr has been gaining a lot of publicity over the last few weeks with how he's been playing, and deservedly so. You saw a lot of progress against Miami, saw even more progress against Texas A&M, and in the last 4 games, he has played very well for the most part. He's a redshirt freshman, so there's going to be ups and downs at times. There's going to be bad drives. There's going to be some bad throws, some missed opportunities, but for the most part, he has played very well behind center. Well, now you got the national media talking about him a lot, right? Like I'm watching Dan Orlovsky quote tweet and saying he's a future first-round pick. I'm hearing guys like Greg McElroy talk about him a lot. I'm hearing more and more about CJ Carr and how special he can be. Well, your first 2 primetime opportunities against Miami, Texas A&M, you played pretty well, but you weren't able to get the W. This is a primetime night game, South Bend, Indiana, Notre Dame Stadium against a rival. If CJ Carr wants to assert his presence in college football on the biggest stage, this is an opportunity. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but if he's able to outduel Jaden Maeva and come out with a big win, move to 5-2, and preserve your opportunity to make the college football playoffs if you run the table the rest of the year against a not great schedule after USC, that is a statement type of performance for CJ Carr. So I'm hoping he has that type because let's not skate around it. Notre Dame has the advantage offensively to the Trojans' defense. I think the Trojans have a couple quality defensive linemen up front. Shelby's a really good player. There's a few of them. Jakeem Stewart's going to be a star. Anthony Lucas is pretty good when he's healthy. But your wide receiver crew, which includes Malachi Fields, Jordan Faison, and all those guys, they are better than the secondary outside of Kamari Ramsey. Like, you can make a lot of plays in the passing game. If you're able to protect him, does CJ Carr take advantage of his opportunities? That's my biggest question. I think that he has the opportunity to answer those, but this is a prime time, under the lights opportunity for CJ Carr to assert his national relevance and his national figure. And I'm really looking forward to seeing just how well the redshirt freshman quarterback plays in this prime time matchup. And then my last thing that I'm really going to be looking at for this game, and part of the last one is finishing drives. I think that that's obviously a big thing that we'll continue to talk about as far as this Notre Dame offense, especially in this game where USC should score a little bit. You're really going to need to finish drives. Finish drives, and let's see what you're ultimately going to come out on top. But the last one, I don't want to call this a Chad Bowden revenge game. For people who don't know Chad Bowden, he was obviously the former general manager of Notre Dame, did a lot of good things, went from Notre Dame to USC this offseason, grew up a USC fan, lived in California for a good chunk of his life. There was a lot of things said this offseason from Chad Bowden's side of things, talking about how Lincoln Riley is the best recruiter he's ever been around, even though he just spent half a decade with Marcus Freeman at 2 stops. Talking about, the ability for them to win a championship and blah, 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 blah. Chad said a lot this offseason. And, hey, part of it, totally understand. It's your new job. It's your dream job. Whatever. But Notre Dame fans did feel a little slighted by some of his comments. And they should. I think that a couple of them were definitely targeted. And Chad knows how to play the game a little bit, right? And we can respect Chad Bowden and what he did at Notre Dame before Mike Martin, but also say, I'd like to beat that guy right now, right? And again, this isn't you don't have pictures of Chad hanging up around the locker room this week talking about like, hey, this is the Chad Bowden revenge game. But all I'll say, and hopefully I can go a little deeper into the Chad Bowden exit for Notre Dame down the road, but all I'll say is it wasn't the cleanest, quote-unquote, breakup of all time. There were some feelings on both sides, and not feelings in terms of Notre Dame that wanted him to stay and they felt heartbroken that he chose their rival. Like, not really that stuff. I'll just leave it at there was just some hard feelings on both sides, and I think that relationship was breaking apart a little bit near the end there, and this is a move that made sense probably on both sides of the coin. But Notre Dame has a chance to not only beat their rival, but to beat the guy that got a lot of the credit, and again, deservedly so for the most part, for putting together the roster that we are going to see on Saturday night. So not the major storyline, but would be nice to beat Chad Bowden in his return to South Bend. Folks, we'd love to hear from you all. It's your turn. Storylines. What are you looking for on Saturday night? It could be offensively, defensively, coaching, big game decisions, whatever it would be. Make sure to put that in the comment section. Hit that like and subscribe as well on your way out. And as always, go Irish.